Mr. Norton made some really strident accusations that take us to the issue of race and race relations and the politics in Guyana. What would you have to say based on what you might have heard or what was reported to you on what Mr. Norton said on our program earlier this week? I would like you to address the specific allegation, and it was very specific by Mr. Norton, alleging that the killing of two young men of African descent and that X's were marked into the backs of their heads after they were killed, as if to suggest that they voted for the wrong party, and therefore there were clear racist intonations in that. Is that accurate, as was presented by Mr. Norton?
First of all, there was 3 young men that was murdered, not 2. But you don't hear Mr. Norton or none of his colleagues from his opposition party mentioning nothing about the third person, because the third person was of Indian descent. Now, Mr. Norton and them, they are the ones who are spreading racial messages, because this whole thing started because the 2 young men, the Henry boys, them bodies was found on an Indian man property, and as the bodies was discovered, the message moved on to former President Granger and leader of the opposition now, Joseph Harmon. They take the first opportunity to go down to the families, and instead of sympathizing with those families, they gather up the community to say that it was Indians who killed these 2 young men. Subsequently to that, I think a day or 2 after, the next young Indian boy was murdered. Harish Singh was beaten to death. Now these 3 young men was friends, but again you don't hear them coming out saying nothing about the Indian. They're only talking about the 2 Henry boys and the X's that was marked behind the head. Say there's a message to say that they voted for the wrong party. Now, common sense is common sense. These 2 young boys was 15 and 16. They would not qualify to vote, right? So there is no way it could have been a message that they voted for the wrong party. Now let's spin this narrative in a different direction. The father of Isaiah Henry, I cannot remember his real name, but he said I call him Jiro. His Indian associates, his friends, right? And also Isaiah friends, most of them were Indians. Now could it be possible, because Isaiah father, whom 90% of his friends are Indians, could it be possible that he voted for the PPP and his sons was murdered to send a message that the father voted for the wrong party? That's why our X end up at the back of their heads. Could it be that, since Aubrey Norton is so familiar with what his signs represent? Recently there was a live stream on Facebook with this guy from Guyana who do basically the same thing I do. He was highlighting Isaiah and his cousin Facebook profile, and one of them had a mask on his face with an X, and the next one had a mask of Jason, and something was right up in blood alongside that, right? So I don't know where Aubrey Norton, Joseph Harmon and Granger get it from that these guys was murdered by Indians, when nobody knew who killed them. But Granger and Harmon went up to the village and organize an illegal protest that lead up to burning tires on the road, robbing people, assaulting people physically and sexually, destroying people's property. At one instance, they stop a bus, a minibus, a passenger bus, tell the guy he have to pay $3,000 to pass, and because he refused to pay it, they beat him and rob him. This is the kind of things was in response to the two Henry Boys murder, when nobody knew at the time and until now who really killed those boys. When they get to find out that the two boys wasn't murdered on the property they was found, there was no comment from the APA and UFC. Nothing. They continue with the narrative that these boys was murdered by Indians and they want justice. Now, there are overseas help in pursuing justice for these murders in Guyana at the moment. But they're still coming out on the road, burning up the road, illegal protests that again was organized by Joseph Harmon and David Granger. So when Aubrey Norton coming out there pushing a narrative that these boys was murdered because of political reasons, is that something Aubrey Norton helped organize? For him to be so much convinced that that was the narratives behind the murder. If you can remember, during the election period, I am 43 years old, so I would have been witnessing 8 elections in Guyana. And I never hear about nobody putting grease on the finger and taking bleach to take it off. I heard it from Aubrey Norton during the election period. Was that again something that Aubrey Norton helped to organize? That is why he knows so much about it. Those are questions left to be answered. But again, the two young Henry boys, the Indian one, Harish Singh, was not murdered by Indians. The murderers will be brought to justice. And I can assure you that when those murderers are being captured and they turn out to be of African descent, what will be Joseph Harmon, Aubrey Norton, and David Granger respond to that? I am waiting to see.
How difficult is it, therefore, for your government to not be seen as one engaging in political victimization or a witch hunt that would appear to be race-based, even as you claim you are pursuing justice for all the people of Guyana?
That is not difficult for nobody to see and understand that this is not a witch hunt. This is not based on no race, and this is not no victimization of nobody. I think it was Wayne Atta or Ralph Gonzalez who was an observer at the 2020 election in Guyana, who make a comment and say that they never see an attempt to rig an election so transparent before. These people was trying to thief an election in a glass room. This is not hard for nobody to see. It is not difficult. Everything is out there. Everybody is aware of what went on during the election. The world was aware of what went on during the election. Nobody, the whole thing about this based on race, and this is a political witch hunt, and the whole bunch of crap that you're hearing is being said by the APNU AFC. because they were the ones who was involved in rigging the election. And they are the ones who don't want the world to see them as riggers, as thieves, as liars, and wicked people as they are. They don't want the world to see them as that. So they're coming out and defend themselves to say this is a political witch hunt. It is not. Listen this. If it is one group of people who was trying to derail an election, and there is an investigation going on at the moment, is that investigation could only be conducted on that single group of people. Nobody else. You can't go and take an innocent person who wasn't involved in trying to rig an election and get them to court for nothing. All the people them who are being arrested and being investigated and being charged are people who are guilty of trying to rig an election. There are videos, numerous videos, videoing every proceedings during the election. Right? It's not like farming no allegation against these people. There are physical evidence to show as to what they was doing during the election. But they have an election petition pending, the AP and UAFC, and it's soon to be heard. And that is why they're trying to push this narrative as to the government is on a witch hunt, trying to accuse people and arrest people for no reason. That is not true. These people are guilty as charged. You know that, and the rest of the world know that.
Even if it sounds like a naive question, and I understand the importance of law and order and to hold people to account if wrong has been done. But does there come a point where the government of which you are a part can step back and say, you are in office now, you've won the elections after that long protracted period, and it would be for the greater good of Guyana to basically go about governing and providing the quality of service that the people of Guyana need, rather than being seen as, whether directly or indirectly, facilitating the persecution or the prosecution of those who are now in the opposition?
Let me start with this first. It would be the greater good of Guyana if we prosecute these people. Now, how could it be the greater good of Guyana if we let this slide and it keep happening every election, elections after elections after elections? How that could be the greater good of Guyana? I understand what you are saying, that it would be the greater good of Guyana for the government to deliver the quality of service. The promise the government is, at the moment, delivering as promised everything on the manifesto they say they will fulfill. So the government is doing their job. The police are doing their job. The government is not involved in the police conducting their duties. Right? What is the point? What is the point of the government saying that we are in power, we win the election, and we should just forget what went on in the elections? What is the point of that? So it can keep repeating itself all the time, keep putting the country through what it went through during this past 5 months in the election, again and again and again. Where is the greater good in that? Where is the greater good in that? There is no good in that. And if we don't put a stop in to those kind of illegal activities now, there will be no other time. There will be no other time. So the investigation have to be completed. Who is to be charged is to be charged. Who to go to jail will go to jail. Right? That is for the greater good of Guyana. That is for the greater good of Guyana. Now they have the petition pending. And if it turns out that the PPP was involved in illegal activities, then you do the same to them. You do the same to them. Everybody should be held accountable for their actions. I don't care which party they're from. I don't care. But we have to fix this problem once and for all. You cannot let the country develop in this 5-year period, and when election come, every money you spend, everything you achieve, get demolished by one group of people because they're trying to thief an election. Things have to be dealt with now so they do not reoccur in the future. Now we have to make these people who was involved in trying to rig this election an example as to what would happen if a next GCOM staff go rogue. They have to understand there will be penalties if you break the law. They have to be, and that have to start now. So there is no point in the government at the moment saying that we win the election and we're in office now and we should just forget what happened. Every time during every single election, this is what the PNC keep doing over and over and over. We cannot continue to accept these kind of behaviors from nobody in the country. I don't care which race, which party, or who to be. We cannot keep accepting these things anymore. They have to be dealt with and dealt with now. Okay, sir? There is no greater good in trying to make it better for the people of the country, and in 5 years, it gets worse again. People have to go back living in fear. People have to be assaulted. They're burning down. They're breaking down. They're killing. They're robbing people. They're raping people. Destroying people's house. Destroying people's vehicles. For how much longer could the country go through with these things? So there is no greater good in none of this. Again, what is the point of the government trying to make the country better in these 5 years, and at the end of the 5 years when the election come again, everything they do get destroyed? Then we have to take taxpayers' money again and rebuild it again for the next 5 years for it to be destroyed again. Where is Guyana going? Where would Guyana be heading in the future if we continue to accept these kind of behaviors? Right? So there is no greater good in just letting this slide. There is no greater good of the intention the PNC have for Guyana. They don't have nothing good in the mind for Guyana. You understand? But we have to stand up now and put a stop into this by any means necessary. These are my comments as an ordinary Guyanese citizen. This is from an ordinary person. So I can play a clip by the Honorable Minister of Public Works Bishop Edgehill, and let him explain political terms what the government is doing at the moment.
Well, I would think that your comments at the end would reflect a narrative that needs to be dispelled, because the 70 plus days that we have been in office would have seen us, one, producing an emergency budget that brought benefits to all the people of Guyana. We are currently, as a country, distributing the cash grant to households across Guyana, all 10 administrative regions, every household. We have been able to put stimulus into the various sectors by relieving the burdens on the back of the manufacturers, the farmers, the private sector, the small businesses, so that they can start thriving again. We have significantly restored confidence and hope in the Guyanese people as it relates to their safety and livelihood in the midst of a COVID-19 pandemic. We have advanced transformational programs, gone out for expressions of interest and requests of proposals for the new Demerara Harbor Bridge, for new hotels. We are working on the Deepwater Harbor. We are in the midst of bringing gas to energy to bring about cheaper electricity. We have been engaging in infrastructural development, securing our city fences, putting in the street lights that the people require, looking after the nurses and the medical professionals in the face of a COVID-19 pandemic, ensuring that our children get back to learning by investing $300 million in a learning channel where they could have 5 different classes being conducted simultaneously, printing the material and delivering it to households. Even though children can't get to school, their textbooks and their material are getting to their homes. That is what the government is doing, not witch hunting. The police is investigating criminal activity. The government is serving the people of Guyana, bringing development to the people of Guyana, advancing our manifesto promises, ensuring that farmers and nurses and policemen, frontline workers, the vendors in the markets, the taxi drivers, the miners, we're ensuring that they could get back to work and their livelihoods could be secure in a safe COVID-19 pandemic environment. The government...
For the people of Guyana to appreciate what has been said on both sides and who they really believe. It's 7:20.
How can the people of Guyana appreciate what was said on both sides when the entire Guyanese population know? I'm talking about every race, culture, religion, know that the PNC lying, that the PNC trying to cause racial conflict in the country. That's all they're doing. That's all the PNC doing. They already lost most of the supporters because of what transpired during the election. The few die-hard supporters they have now, they keep fooling them, they keep lying to them, they keep misleading them into believing that they was cheated, that the African community is being targeted. It is not so. That is not true. And each and every one of them who's supporting the PNC at the moment, no, that is not true. But I can tell you this, and this is fact, that they're only doing it because the PNC is a black party and they are black. That is the only reason they're going out there to support the likes of Harmon, Granger, and Aubrey Norton and the rest of them. Only reason. Those are the racial people. Them, Harmon and them. The PNC in general is by far the most racial and corrupt party Guyana have. So all they could do, every time an election come and they lose, they keep doing the same thing over and over. Racism. Every time. There be these intelligent people and people who want to do good for the country and who mean good in general. But they are the ones who, every time they lose an election, keep peddling this race bullshit. You just can't blame them for being ignorant. You have to blame the people who supporting them to be more ignorant than them. Because I can tell you that this is right and you know it is wrong, but you're still willing to accept it is right because I said so. So you have to be more stupid and more ignorant than the person who's telling you something is right when you know it's wrong and still accepting it. The PNC is who? Trying to cause corruption in the country. Every case they get to court during the election, the High Court, the Appeal Court, the CCG, everyone they lose. Now they're coming out trying to tell these ignorant, stupid Guyanese people who supporting them at the moment in terms of illegal protests, in terms of protesting in general to support a narrative that is not true. They are still trying to mislead them and tell them that they can win the election petition. They are not going to win no election petition because every evidence is there to show that the PNC was trying to thief an election. They are lying. What they're carrying the election petition to court based on is the missing documents. The investigation that is going on into GCOM staffs at the moment is to find those documents. As long those documents start surfacing, the election petition is to no value. Okay, that is the truth and the fact. About this whole racism thing, about the country cannot move forward because of one set of people. And they're coming out to say that the PPP is the one who assaulting one ethnic group because of the race. That is not true. Everything that is going on in the country at the moment is being broadcast live on Facebook and YouTube. Every video is there for everybody to go and see what are being taking place in the country at the moment. And then the world could judge for themselves as to who trying to cause corruption and who trying to bring peace. Right? Okay, everybody, that's all for this video. See you in the next one. Please stay safe, stay away from Rona, and keep looking out for each other. Prepare to protect yourself. Prepare to protect yourself. Buy what is necessary for you to protect you and your family. Okay? Again, stay safe, stay away from Rona.